Hello everybody, I'm Matthew Brune here for Geaux247, and today we're going to be looking at a couple of the biggest problems LSU men's basketball has moving forward as we look ahead to the Final Four games of the season and the SEC tournament, and then eventually, hopefully, I guess at this point, the NCAA tournament. This is going to be more big picture type stuff. I know LSU just lost to South Carolina, and that's kind of what triggered this conversation, but if you look at it, even dating back to, I'd say, everything after the Tennessee win on January 8th, really the past month, we've seen some of the cracks that in LSU's offense and defense, which we'll get into here. Obviously, Xavier Pinson missing 7 games exacerbated those issues when they lost, 6 of 7 without him. And now this is their first loss with the starting lineup of Xavier Pinson, Brandon Murray, Imani Wilkinson, Darius Stays, and Efton Reed. Those 5 are now 17-1 as a starting lineup against, and those aren't just, wins over UL Monroe or Georgia Tech. Those include a great win over Belmont, win over Kentucky, a win over Tennessee. And so now we have to look at this team coming off a loss to South Carolina, 77-75. A loss that will enrage a lot of people. Obviously has the team very frustrated at this point, drops them to 7-7 in conference play. And we look at the Final Four games of the year. We're hoping that they can go 2-2 now, right? If you're an LSU fan, you're like, all right, get to 2-2, go 21-10 on the year, 9-9 in conference play, and then you win a game or two in the conference tournament, probably one or two games in the conference tournament. You make the NCAA tournament as probably a 6 seed, and that's probably best case scenario. But I still think the upside of this team is pretty. The ceiling of this team I think is still pretty high. If you look at it, I think there's still a chance for the Sweet 16, and if this team makes the Sweet 16, that is very, very good because we know what they've gone through this year. Obviously, every team in the country has had injuries at some point for the most part, but LSU should, they don't lose 6 or 7 if they have Xavier Pinson, most likely, right? But it doesn't matter. Adam Miller's not walking through that door. They can't get those 7 games back. And now we have to look at this team big picture because not only do they have Kentucky up next, but they have Alabama and Arkansas as the last 2 games of the year. So if we just look at the offensive side of the ball, still ranking last in the SEC on offense. Like I said, those numbers are partially skewed because of Pinson being out. But regardless, with Pinson back, we've seen the emergence of one of my biggest concerns with this team is that they've become too Pinson-oriented. And we've seen Tari Eason thrive. We've seen the Eason and Pinson combo really decimate teams like we saw against Mississippi State, Georgia, even Texas A&M. But the play of everybody else around them has significantly decreased. And I'm not blaming Pinson for that. I don't think that's Pinson's fault. I think Pinson's been great. Pinson is the second best player on this team. But Darius Stays is shooting about 30% from 3 in conference play. Efton Reed has looked incredibly uncomfortable, even when Pinson was out. He had just looked really bad. But I look at Brandon Murray specifically. I think Brandon Murray is the guy who they need to get more out of. And they need to look to create for him more. I think Brandon Murray is too good of a player to not have the ball in his hands when Pinson's out of the game, but then also when Pinson is in the game. When they have the Pinson and Gaines lineup, it feels like the ball's in their hands too much, and they don't give the ball to Brandon Murray enough. Brandon Murray's a great three-point shooter. He can beat players off the dribble, and he can get to the foul line. Brandon Murray is the key to this. I know that Will Wade wants it to be kind of a simplified type of offense because they turn the ball over so damn much. But Brandon Murray kind of has to be that guy that unlocks this offense to a degree. And I don't think the offense has been bad, but I think there are times where they just have stretches where they can't do anything. And everybody looks around like, all right, well, Xavier, do something, or Tari, do something. And when it's not one of them or when the defense focuses on them, then the offense is just like, well, we're screwed. It has to be Brandon Murray, in my opinion, that takes this offense, I'm not even going to say to another level, but I think just to a level to where they are consistent in games because there's too many times where they're inconsistent. And if we look at the defense side of the ball, that's my bigger concern. The offense is going to be the offense, which I think it's been fine, and you can win games if the defense is playing at the level of which we expect it to play at. Unfortunately, the defense has tailed off a bit. If we just look at the numbers, it's pretty self-evident. According to KenPom, they are now 4th in the conference in adjusted defensive efficiency, only in conference play, obviously. Overall, they're still one of the best defenses in the country when you take into consideration the non-conference. And they're still forcing an incredible amount of turnovers. They are the number 1 team in the country in steal percentage. They are number 1 in the conference in turnover percentage at almost 25%. But my concern is that this defense has become too boom or bust. It's become either they're getting a steal or the other team's getting a really good look. And previously, that really good look had been from 3, right? We did a whole spiel about how they're giving up too many 3-pointers. They're giving up the most 3-point attempts in conference. Will Wade kind of quelled that. He was like, I'm not too worried about that. Now teams are getting to the rim. Because now, like I said, they're leading the league in steals, turnovers, all that stuff. They're now 9th in 2-point percentage defense, 2-point field goal percentage defense. And that's what can happen. Teams like South Carolina, like Mississippi State, A&M, are getting to the rim with ease. And that can't happen. Previously, if teams want to take quick threes, you live with it. If teams want to take drive and kick type threes, they kind of lived with it. If they were getting kicked out to the right players. Now teams are driving and they're dumping to the dunker spot, or they're getting all the way to the rim, or they have a little floater. And that's what can't happen with this team. This team cannot start to allow, and I shouldn't say start, they've already started. They cannot continue to allow teams to get to the rim this easily. And I know it's difficult because the rotations were out of sync with Efton Reed getting in foul trouble. He has just really struggled this conference season. So Darius and Tari have had to do a lot, but the bust that this defense have continued to have is the most concerning thing for me, because now teams are like, okay, if we just don't turn the ball over, we can break them down in the half court. And that's very, very scary for a defense that, in my opinion, is talented enough to give anybody in the country fits. Now it's like, all right, South Carolina is kind of dicing them up to a degree, to where a guy scores 31 points on them, and none of them, and not even a lot of those points are off the bounce. A lot of those are just catch and shoot type looks for him. Because the defense is so collapsed, they're put in rotation too easily, and that's obviously a big thing. I mean, to a certain point, you can live with allowing a lot of 3-point attempts because 3-pointers are fluky at times. Some go in, some don't. Even at times, this defense has lived with putting teams on the free throw line a ton, right? If you look at they allow the most free throw attempts in the conference. I mean, they're 14th in that category. But what you can't allow are dunks, and what you can't allow are layups, and what you can't allow are teams to just break you down that easily. Now, I don't want to make it sound like the defense is awful, because, again, we're looking big picture at this. We're not just looking at the South Carolina game. But to have the 4th-ranked defense as opposed to the 1st or 2nd is a concern. So what are they going to do to clean that up? Can they clean it up? Because we know that they have a difficult stretch coming up with Kentucky, Arkansas, and Alabama as 3 of the last 4 games. You got to win. You got to win at least one of them, right? Because you have a Missouri sandwich in there, you can take care of them. But at the end of the day, the defense is going to set the ceiling for this team, and I still believe that in a tournament setting, they can take teams out of their rhythm. At the end of the day, though, the turnovers and the steals are going to give them opportunities to win games. They had 28 points off turnovers against South Carolina, and that's arguably the reason they even had a chance in the game. After starting off really, really high from the field, they cooled off, and then they were just relying on their turnovers. Can they win that way? Can it be sustainable? I don't know the answers to that. And I don't know if anybody knows the answers to that. So we'll have to see moving forward if they can get it fixed, because offensively, yes, I want them to get Brandon Murray going. I want them to become a little bit more diverse. But defensively, you have to lock in. Defensively, you cannot have these busts that they're having right now. If they shoot a lot of threes, they shoot a lot of threes. We've seen that this defense is fine with team shooting threes. You can't allow them to get to the rim, because that's what puts this team in a lot of trouble. So we'll see if they get it fixed. Like I said, a tough stretch coming up. I'm excited for it. I just want to get this real quick video out to y'all. I don't think the season's over. I think this team is going to make the tournament. I think they'll probably win a game or 2 in the SEC tournament. They're going to be fine. But for them to reach their potential, there are certain things they have to clean up on both sides of the ball. So I'm interested to see how it goes moving forward. Again, don't burn down the PMAC yet. I think they're going to have a chance as we look into March. So follow Geaux247 for the latest LSU content. We appreciate y'all subscribing. If you haven't subscribed already, you can get the first month for $1, or you can get the full year for 30% off, I believe, right now. If you are a subscriber, let us know what you think on the message boards. If you're none of that, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave us a like if you enjoy it. Leave us a comment. And my Twitter is @MatthewBrune_ if you want to yell at me anymore, say that I'm an idiot. So I appreciate y'all for joining me, and I will talk to y'all later.